My husband backhanded me during a party, and his friends called it marriage stuff. But later that night, my phone buzzed with a photo taken from inside my house captioned, "Packed tonight." I stared at the image for a full minute. It showed my living room from the hallway angle, the exact view from where I stood frozen 3 hours earlier while Vernon's hand connected with my face. The timestamp read 9:38 p.m. The party ended at 9:15. Someone had stayed behind. My hand shook as I zoomed in on the photo. There, in the corner, barely visible on the coffee table, was Vernon's glass of bourbon, still half full, just like he'd left it when he stormed upstairs to sleep off his anger. Whoever took this had been watching me clean up. I checked every door. Locked. Every window. Locked. The security system showed no breaches, no alerts, nothing. But someone had been inside my house, standing in my hallway, watching me move through rooms, and I'd felt nothing. I scrolled back through my photos. Then I saw it. 15 new photos uploaded from an unknown device at 9:41 p.m., all from inside my house. Me washing dishes, me folding Vernon's jacket, me standing in the bathroom doorway touching my swollen cheek, me crying. The final photo showed me from behind as I climbed the stairs, and in the reflection of the hallway mirror, a figure stood in the shadows of the guest room. I couldn't make out features, just a silhouette. But they'd been there the whole time, documenting everything. I grabbed my phone and ran to Vernon's study. His laptop was still on, Chrome open to his email. I didn't even have to search. The most recent thread was titled Property Transfer Documents. My stomach dropped as I read. Vernon had been planning to sell our house for 6 weeks. The buyer was his business partner, Griffin. The sale price was $340,000. The house was worth $890,000. The property transfer would finalize next Tuesday. Vernon would pocket the money while I'd be left with nothing since the house was in his name alone. That's when I understood. The hit wasn't spontaneous anger. It was theater. Vernon had invited 12 people to witness him strike me in front of witnesses who'd testify I was unstable if I tried to fight the sale. They'd all watched him slap me, then they'd patted his back and told him marriage was hard work. Nobody had checked if I was okay. I heard footsteps upstairs, Vernon moving around. I opened his filing cabinet and found the deed. The house had been transferred to his name only last month through a forged signature. My signature. I took photos of everything. My phone buzzed again. Another photo. This one showed Vernon asleep in our bed, taken from the bedroom doorway. The caption read, "He won't wake up for 6 hours. The curtains are unlocked." I stared at the message. Someone was giving me a way out. But who? I thought back to the party. Then I remembered the woman in the kitchen. She'd been loading the dishwasher when everyone else was watching Vernon's performance. I'd never seen her before. I searched Vernon's emails, found a thread with someone named Felix. The message read, 15,000 to make it look like faulty wiring. Make sure she's inside. The date was set for next Thursday. My vision blurred. Vernon wasn't just stealing the house. He was planning to kill me for the insurance money. I ran to the bedroom and grabbed my emergency bag from the closet, the one I'd packed 3 years ago after Vernon first shoved me into a wall. I was halfway down the stairs when my phone lit up with another message. This time, it included an address. Keys under the mat, bank account info attached. The account showed $50,000 deposited yesterday. The sender line read, "From someone who got out." Another message appeared. "He did this to 3 wives before you. I was number 2. The police won't help. They never do. But I've been collecting evidence for 6 years." I looked at the screen, at the photos, the videos, the documents. Someone had been watching Vernon for years, building a case, waiting for the right moment. My phone buzzed one final time. The message made my blood run cold. "The house fire is scheduled for 3 tomorrow morning. You have 90 minutes to decide. Take the evidence and run, or stay and burn with the truth." The last wife didn't. I stood in the hallway, my emergency bag clutched against my chest, trying to process what was happening. Vernon's snoring drifted down from upstairs, steady and unbothered. The man who'd orchestrated my murder was sleeping peacefully while I stood paralyzed in our foyer. Another message. "Stop thinking. Start moving. Car keys are in your bag. I already packed extra clothes in the trunk yesterday. You have 88 minutes. I didn't remember putting car keys in my bag. I unzipped it and found them sitting on top, attached to a keychain I'd never seen before. A small rabbit's foot, worn and faded. My stomach twisted. Someone had been in my things, touching my belongings, preparing for this moment. But they were trying to save me. I thought about calling the police. Then I remembered last year when Vernon shoved me into the kitchen counter hard enough to crack a rib. I'd called 911, and the responding officer was Griffin's cousin. He'd taken one look at Vernon's calm explanation about me tripping, then suggested I be more careful. Vernon donated $10,000 to the Police Benevolent Association the next week. My phone buzzed. Don't even think about calling the cops. Vernon owns half the department. The other half looks the other way. I grabbed my laptop from the coffee table and shoved it into my bag. Grabbed the external hard drive from Vernon's study where I'd backed up all the photos. My hands were steadier now, moving on autopilot. I'd spent 3 years telling myself I was overreacting, that Vernon's anger was just stress, that marriage required compromise. I'd wasted 3 years being a good wife to a man who was planning my funeral, the woman in the kitchen. I pulled up the party photos on my phone, the ones Vernon had insisted we take for his social media. There she was in the background, barely visible behind the refrigerator door. Dark hair pulled back, plain features, forgettable. Exactly the kind of person you'd overlook. Another message. That's me, Nora, Griffin's wife. Or I was, until I became his first wife's replacement. Now I'm just another ghost in their collection. I typed back, "Where are you?" The response came immediately. "Somewhere safe. Somewhere they can't find me. Took me 4 years to build this new life. I'm not letting them destroy yours too. Why help me? Because I couldn't help myself when I needed it. Because the first wife tried to warn me and I didn't listen. Because if I don't stop this pattern, there will be a fourth wife. And a fifth. And Vernon and Griffin will keep trading us like baseball cards until someone makes them stop." I looked at the clock. 11:47 p.m. If the fire was scheduled for 3 in the morning, I had just over 3 hours. But something didn't add up. I typed, "How do you know about the fire?" Dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, because I heard them planning it. I've been listening to their conversations for 18 months. Surveillance equipment hidden in Griffin's office, Vernon's car, even in this house. I've heard everything. The realization hit me like ice water. Every conversation, every argument, every moment I'd thought I was alone. Someone had been listening. Where in this house? Your bedroom lamp, the one Vernon bought you for your birthday 2 years ago? Kitchen smoke detector? Bathroom mirror? Living room bookshelf? I've heard you cry yourself to sleep. I've heard Vernon laugh about it with Griffin. I've heard them plan 6 different ways to kill you and make it look accidental. I ran to the bedroom lamp and unplugged it. Turned it over. Nothing visible. But then I saw the tiny pinhole in the base. No bigger than a pencil tip. "Don't bother destroying them," Nora's message read. "I already have everything recorded. Every threat. Every plan. Every confession. All backed up in 3 different locations. That's your insurance policy." The stairs creaked. My heart stopped. Vernon's snoring had stopped. I heard the bathroom door close, water running. He'd be back asleep in 5 minutes. I had to move now. I grabbed my bag and headed for the garage. Opened the door as quietly as possible. My car sat there. A silver Honda Civic I'd bought before marrying Vernon. He'd wanted me to sell it. Said it made us look poor. I'd refused. It was the only thing in my life that was truly mine. I slid into the driver's seat and started the engine. The garage door opener was clipped to the visor. I pressed it and watched the door rise with agonizing slowness. Any second, Vernon would hear. Any second, he'd come running down the stairs and drag me back inside. The door cleared. I backed out slowly. No headlights. Made it to the end of the driveway. Turned onto the street. Only then did I flip on my lights and drive. My phone buzzed. Good. Now head north on Highway 64. Drive for exactly 38 miles. You'll see a rest stop. Pull in and wait. I drove in silence, checking my rearview mirror every 10 seconds. The streets were empty. Most of the neighborhood was asleep, unaware that their successful businessman neighbor was a monster. I passed Griffin's house. All the lights were off. Past the Hendersons, where Carol had told me just last week how lucky I was to have such a devoted husband. Highway 64 was deserted. I pressed the accelerator and watched the speedometer climb. 60, 70, 80. The faster I drove, the more real this became. I was leaving. Actually leaving. After 3 years of telling myself it wasn't that bad, that I could fix this, that love meant staying, I was finally running. At mile marker 38, I saw the rest stop. Pulled in and parked under a broken streetlight, just like Nora had instructed. Turned off the engine. Waited. A car pulled in beside me. A dark blue sedan, at least 15 years old. The driver's window rolled down. It was the woman from the kitchen, Nora. She looked older in person than in the photos. Not physically older, but worn down, like she'd lived several lifetimes in a short span. Her eyes met mine, and I saw something I recognized. The same exhaustion I saw in my own mirror every morning. "Get in," she said. "We need to talk before you disappear." I hesitated. This woman had been surveilling my house, listening to my conversations, watching my life fall apart. But she was also the only person who'd tried to help me. I grabbed my bag and climbed into her passenger seat. Nora didn't waste time on pleasantries. She handed me a thick manila envelope. Inside were printed documents. Bank statements showing wire transfers from Vernon to Felix, emails detailing the arson plan, photos of Vernon and Griffin meeting with Felix at various locations, text messages discussing insurance policies and payout schedules. "This is everything you need to put Vernon away," Nora said. "But you can't go to the local police. You need to contact the FBI field office in Charleston. Ask for Agent Patricia Reeves. She's been investigating Vernon and Griffin for wire fraud and money laundering for 8 months. This will give her what she needs for murder conspiracy charges." I flipped through the documents, my hands shaking. "How did you get all this?" "I told you. I've been listening for 18 months. But before that, I was married to Griffin for 3 years. He kept meticulous records of every illegal thing they did, stored on a home server in his basement. When I left, I copied everything. Been adding to it ever since. Why didn't you go to the FBI yourself?" "I did. 6 months ago. Agent Reeves is building a case, but she needs more evidence. She needs a victim who's willing to testify. Someone they can't discredit as a bitter ex-wife. That's me. That's you. But only if you're willing. Because once you step forward, there's no going back. They'll come after you with everything they have. Character assassination? Threats? They'll make you wish you'd burned in that house." I thought about Vernon's hand connecting with my face. About the photos documenting my humiliation. About 3 years of walking on eggshells, apologizing for things I didn't do, shrinking myself smaller and smaller until I barely existed. When do I call her? Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. sharp. Use this phone. Nora handed me a prepaid cell, already programmed with her number. Don't use your regular phone for anything. Vernon's been tracking it since you got married. Of course he had. What about the address you sent me? The keys under the mat? Nora smiled. The first genuine expression I'd seen from her. That's your safe house. A studio apartment in my name, paid up for 6 months. The $50,000 in the account is also real. Money I've been saving from identity theft cases I've been running on Vernon's associates. They steal from people. I steal from them. Consider it your starting over fund. Identity theft? I had a lot of time to learn new skills while hiding from my ex-husband. Turns out I'm very good at making people disappear. Digitally speaking. I looked at this woman who'd orchestrated my escape, who'd been watching over me from the shadows, who'd spent 18 months building a case against the men who'd destroyed her life. Why risk everything for me? Because the first wife didn't make it out. Griffin's first wife, Vanessa. She tried to leave. Made it as far as a hotel 2 towns over before they found her. The police report said she fell down the hotel stairs, broke her neck. But I found the security footage they thought was deleted. She didn't fall. She was pushed. My blood ran cold. I couldn't save Vanessa, Nora continued. But I can save you. And maybe if enough of us survive and speak up, they'll finally face consequences. Do you think the FBI will actually arrest them? Agent Reeves is good at her job. And she's personally invested. Her sister was murdered by her husband 10 years ago. He claimed self-defense and walked. Reeves has been going after domestic violence cases ever since. I checked my phone. 12:38 a.m. In a few hours, Felix would break into my house and set it on fire. Vernon would wake up, discover me missing, and realize I'd escaped. How long before he came looking? As if reading my mind, Nora said, the apartment is in a building with good security. Cameras, keycard access, doorman during business hours. You'll be safe there while Agent Reeves builds the case. Should take about 3 weeks to get the arrests lined up. 3 weeks of hiding. 3 weeks of staying alive, Nora corrected. Once they're arrested, you can start rebuilding. New job, new life, new everything. What about you? I'll keep doing what I do. Watching, listening, helping the next one when she needs it. There will be a next one. There's always a next one. Men like Vernon and Griffin don't stop. They just find new victims. We sat in silence for a moment, 2 women who'd escaped the same trap, separated by time but connected by trauma. One more thing, Nora said. She reached into her back seat and pulled out a laptop. This has copies of everything on that hard drive you grabbed from Vernon's study, plus everything I've collected. Keep it somewhere safe. Not at the apartment. Maybe a safety deposit box. I'll figure it out. Good. Now get out of here. Drive another 60 miles north, then take exit 1 or 19. The apartment building is called Riverside Terrace. Unit 4B. Keys are under the mat, like I said. There's food in the fridge and basics in the bathroom. Settle in and get some sleep. You have a long day tomorrow. I gathered my things and started to open the door, then stopped. Nora? Yeah? Thank you. For everything. She smiled again, but it was sad this time. Just promise me something. When you testify and they ask why you stayed so long, tell them the truth. Don't make excuses for him. Don't protect his reputation. Let the whole world know exactly what he is. I promise. I climbed back into my car and drove north. Behind me, Nora's sedan pulled out of the rest stop and disappeared in the opposite direction. 2 ghosts passing in the night, both running from men who thought they owned us. The drive was endless. Every set of headlights in my rearview mirror made my heart race. Every exit sign felt like a trap. But I kept driving, mile after mile, until I saw the sign for exit 119. Riverside Terrace was a modest apartment building on the edge of a small town I'd never heard of. 3 stories, brick facade, definitely older but well-maintained. I parked in visitor parking and found Unit 4B on the 2nd floor. The keys were exactly where Nora said they'd be. I let myself in and locked the door behind me. Chain, deadbolt, safety bar. The apartment was small but clean. 1 room with a kitchenette, a bathroom, and a Murphy bed already pulled down. Nora had thought of everything. Fresh sheets, towels in the bathroom, coffee and cereal in the cabinets, milk and eggs in the fridge. I sat on the edge of the bed and finally let myself fall apart. The tears came hard and fast, 3 years of terror and submission and survival pouring out all at once. I cried until my throat was raw and my eyes swollen, cried for the woman I'd been before Vernon, the one who'd believed in love and partnership and building a life together. Cried for the years I'd wasted trying to fix something that was never broken in me, only in him. When the tears stopped, I felt hollow, exhausted. But underneath the exhaustion was something else, something I hadn't felt in years. Relief. I was out. I was safe. I was alive. I set an alarm for 8:30 a.m. and fell asleep with my clothes still on, the prepaid phone clutched in my hand. The next morning, I called Agent Patricia Reeves at exactly 9 o'clock. She answered on the 2nd ring. This is Reeves. My name is... I hesitated. Nora hadn't told me if I should use my real name or some kind of code. I decided on honesty. My name is Claire Donovan. I'm calling about my husband, Vernon Donovan, and his business partner, Griffin Walsh. I have evidence of conspiracy to commit murder, wire fraud, and money laundering. There was a pause. Then, Mrs. Donovan, I'm very glad you called. How quickly can you get to my office? Where's your office? Charleston, Federal Building on Meeting Street. I can be there in 2 hours. Come to the parking garage. Level 3, northwest corner. I'll meet you there. Don't come inside the building. We'll go somewhere more secure. Okay. And Mrs. Donovan, don't tell anyone you're coming. Not friends, not family, no one. I won't. Good. See you in 2 hours. I hung up and immediately started packing my bag. Changed into fresh clothes from the ones Nora had left in the closet. They fit perfectly. She'd even gotten my size right. The drive to Charleston was nerve-wracking. I kept expecting to see Vernon's black Mercedes behind me, or Griffin's silver Audi, but the highway stayed clear. I made it to the federal building with 10 minutes to spare. Level 3 of the parking garage was mostly empty. I parked in the northwest corner and waited. At exactly 11:02, a woman in a dark pantsuit approached my car. She was maybe 45, athletic build, short blonde hair, and eyes that missed nothing. Claire Donovan? I nodded. I'm Agent Reeves. Follow me. She led me to an unmarked sedan 3 spaces down. We both got in. She didn't start the engine, just turned to face me. Before we go any further, I need to verify some things. When did you marry Vernon Donovan? 3 years ago. June 15th. And your maiden name? Hartley. Where did Vernon propose? At a restaurant called the Blue Crane. He put the ring in my champagne glass and I almost swallowed it. Agent Reeves smiled slightly. Okay, you're really you. Now show me what you have. I handed her the manila envelope Nora had given me. She flipped through the documents, her expression carefully neutral. But I saw her jaw tighten when she got to the emails about the arson plan. How did you obtain these? Someone gave them to me. Someone who's been watching Vernon and Griffin for a long time. Does someone have a name? I think it's better if she stays anonymous. Agent Reeves looked at me sharply. She's done this before, hasn't she? Helped other women escape? I don't know. The agent set the envelope aside and pulled out a voice recorder. I need to record your statement. Everything that happened, start to finish. Don't leave anything out, even if it seems embarrassing or incriminating to you. Whatever Vernon did, whatever you did to survive it, I need to know. I took a deep breath and started talking. Told her about the party, the backhand, the photos from inside my house. Told her about discovering Vernon's plan to sell the house and pocket the money, about the forged signature on the deed, about the emails discussing the arson. Agent Reeves listened without interrupting. When I finished, she asked, did Vernon ever physically harm you before the incident at the party? Many times. Shoves, mostly. Once he threw a plate that hit my shoulder and left a bruise. Another time he grabbed my throat during an argument about dinner. Never hard enough to leave visible marks. Always careful about that. Did you report any of this to police? Once. They didn't believe me, or didn't want to. Vernon's very good at playing the victim. Have you sought medical treatment for any injuries? No. Vernon controlled our finances. I didn't have access to my own bank account. Agent Reeves made notes on a legal pad. This is good. All of this is good. Combined with the financial evidence and the arson conspiracy, I can bring charges tomorrow. Tomorrow? We've been building this case for months. Your testimony is the last piece we needed. I'll present everything to the U.S. Attorney this afternoon. By tomorrow morning, we'll have arrest warrants for Vernon and Griffin on federal charges. Wire fraud, conspiracy to commit arson with intent to murder, money laundering, possibly RICO charges if we can prove a pattern. What happens to me? You'll need to stay somewhere safe. The apartment Nora set you up in should work for now. Once Vernon and Griffin are arrested, you'll need to give a formal deposition. Then we wait for trial. How long will that take? 6 months, maybe a year. Federal trials move slowly, but they're thorough. And during that time, you rebuild your life, file for divorce, get a restraining order, find a job, start over. It sounded so simple when she said it like that, as if 3 years of trauma could be neatly categorized and filed away. One more thing, Agent Reeves said. The fire at your house. It's scheduled for tonight? That's what Nora told me. 3 a.m., then we need to catch Felix in the act. I'll coordinate with local fire department and police. We'll have units staged nearby. When Felix breaks in, we grab him. His testimony will seal the case against Vernon and Griffin. What if something goes wrong? What if Vernon's there? He won't be. According to the emails, Vernon was supposed to be at Griffin's lake house tonight, establishing an alibi. I felt sick. He'd planned everything so carefully. The party witnesses, the forged documents, the alibi. If I hadn't gotten those photos, if Nora hadn't intervened, I'd be dead in a few hours, and Vernon would be collecting insurance money by next week. I need you to trust me, Agent Reeves said. Can you do that? Do I have a choice? You always have a choice. You can walk away right now, try to disappear on your own. But Vernon will find you eventually. Men like him always do. Or you can trust the system, trust me, and let me put him away for the next 20 years. 20 years? Minimum, with good behavior. More likely 30 with all the charges. I thought about Vanessa, about Nora, about the hypothetical 4th wife and 5th wife who wouldn't exist if someone stopped Vernon now. Okay, I trust you. Agent Reeves drove me back to my car. We exchanged phone numbers. The prepaid phone only, she reminded me. Don't turn on your regular phone for any reason. Vernon's tracking it. I drove back to Riverside Terrace and spent the rest of the day in a fog, watching TV without seeing it, eating food without tasting it. Every hour that passed brought me closer to 3 a.m., closer to the moment when my old life would literally go up in flames. At midnight, I couldn't stand the waiting anymore. I called Nora. She answered immediately. You talked to Reeves? Yes, she's staging units at the house to catch Felix. Good. That's good. Are you sure the fire is tonight? Positive. I heard Griffin confirm it with Felix this afternoon. 3 a.m. Bedroom closet. Gasoline-soaked rags staged as paint supplies. Spark from faulty wiring. Nora? Yeah? What happened to Vanessa? Really? Silence. Then, I told you. They pushed her down hotel stairs. But there's more, isn't there? A long pause. She was pregnant. 4 months. Griffin found out she was planning to leave and take the baby. He couldn't let that happen. His reputation, his image, the perfect family man. So he and Vernon made it look like an accident. I closed my eyes. Oh God. The baby didn't survive either. Girl. They'd already picked out a name. Sophia. I felt tears sliding down my face. I'm so sorry. Me too. That's why I do this. For Vanessa and Sophia. For all the women who don't make it out. I'll testify. I'll tell them everything. Good. Make them pay. We hung up. I tried to sleep but couldn't. Instead, I sat by the window and watched the parking lot until my phone buzzed at 3:17 a.m. It was Agent Reeves. Got him. Felix is in custody. Vernon and Griffin are being arrested now. You're safe. I read the message 3 times before it felt real. Vernon was in custody. He couldn't hurt me anymore. Couldn't manipulate or threaten or control. For the first time in 3 years, I fell asleep without fear. The next morning, my phone rang. Agent Reeves. Good news. Felix is cooperating. Gave us everything. Vernon and Griffin are being held without bail. The U.S. attorney is proceeding with all charges. You need to come in and give a formal deposition this week. When? Thursday. 10 a.m. Same parking garage, I'll meet you there. I'll be there. One more thing. The media has picked up the story. Vernon's arrest made the news. You might want to prepare for reporters trying to contact you. She was right. By noon, my email was flooded with interview requests. My social media filled with messages from people I'd gone to high school with, college friends I hadn't spoken to in years, distant relatives crawling out of the woodwork. Everyone wanted to know if I was okay, if I needed anything, how they could help. Where were these people 3 years ago when I was drowning? Where were they when I showed up to family gatherings with bruises I blamed on clumsiness? Where were they when Vernon isolated me from everyone I'd ever cared about? I deleted everything and blocked everyone except my sister. She called immediately. Oh my God, are you okay? I saw the news. I'm fine. I'm safe. Where are you? I'll come get you. I'm somewhere safe. I can't tell you where yet. Did he really try to kill you? I closed my eyes. Yes. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you say something? Would you have believed me? Silence. Then quieter. I don't know. Maybe. I should have. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault. Can I help? What do you need? Honestly, I just need time. Time to process everything. Time to figure out who I am without him. Okay. But when you're ready, I'm here. I know. After she hung up, I realized that was the first honest conversation I'd had with my sister in 3 years. Vernon had hated her, said she was a bad influence. I'd stopped calling, stopped visiting, let that relationship wither because it was easier than fighting with him about it. How many other things had I given up? How many pieces of myself had I surrendered trying to keep the peace? Thursday came. I drove to Charleston and met Agent Reeves in the parking garage. She took me to a conference room in the federal building where a court reporter sat with a stenography machine. The deposition took 4 hours. Agent Reeves and an assistant U.S. attorney asked questions while I answered under oath. Every detail about Vernon's abuse. Every incident I could remember. Every threat. Every manipulation. Every moment of fear. When we finished, the U.S. attorney said, "Thank you, Mrs. Donovan. Your testimony is incredibly valuable. We're building a strong case. When will the trial be? Probably next spring. We'll keep you updated. And until then, you live your life. You're free. Free." The word felt foreign in my mouth. I'd been trapped for so long I'd forgotten what freedom felt like. I drove back to Riverside Terrace and started rebuilding. Filed for divorce. The papers were served to Vernon in federal custody. His lawyer tried to contest it, but my attorney shut that down quickly. A man facing 30 years in prison doesn't get to drag out divorce proceedings. I got a restraining order, changed my phone number, opened a new bank account using the money Nora had given me, applied for jobs. 2 weeks later, I got hired as a medical records clerk at a hospital 30 miles away. The pay wasn't great, but it was mine. Money I'd earned. Money Vernon couldn't touch. I started seeing a therapist. Dr. Brennan specialized in domestic violence survivors. She helped me understand that what I'd experienced wasn't normal marriage problems or rough patches. It was systematic abuse designed to break me down and make me dependent. In our 3rd session, she asked, "What do you want now? Not what Vernon wanted? Not what you think you should want. What do you actually want?" I want to feel safe in my own home. I want to sleep through the night without nightmares. I want to make decisions without second-guessing myself. I want to exist without apologizing for it. Those are good goals. We can work toward those. Slowly, I started healing, started sleeping better, started remembering who I'd been before Vernon, the girl who'd loved hiking and photography and coffee shops with good books, the woman who'd had opinions and dreams and plans for the future. 3 months after Vernon's arrest, Nora called. "How are you doing?" "Better. Therapy helps." "Good. I'm glad. Listen, I wanted to give you an update. Griffin's attorney is trying to cut a deal. He's offering to testify against Vernon in exchange for reduced charges. Will it work? Maybe. But Agent Reeves doesn't think they need it. The evidence is overwhelming. What about Felix? He already pled guilty. He'll testify at Vernon's trial. When is that? March. You'll need to be there. I know. Are you ready for that? I don't know. Seeing him again. Being in the same room. You don't have to look at him. You can direct all your answers to the jury. Tell them your story. That's all you have to do. What if they don't believe me? They will. Because you're not the only one testifying. There are financial records. emails, recorded conversations, physical evidence from the attempted arson, Vernon's own words condemning him. And if he gets acquitted? He won't. Trust me, I've been watching these guys for years. The case is solid. Okay. One more thing. I'm helping 2 more women right now. Different situations, but similar pattern. I wanted to ask if you'd be willing to talk to them. Share your experience. Give them hope that escape is possible. Of course. Whatever you need. Thank you. I'll be in touch. After we hung up, I thought about those 2 women. Trapped the way I'd been trapped. Scared the way I'd been scared. Maybe my story could help them. Maybe surviving wasn't just about saving myself. Maybe it was about breaking the cycle. The months crawled by. Fall turned to winter. I celebrated Thanksgiving with my sister, just the 2 of us in her apartment. It was quiet and simple and perfect. Christmas was harder. My first holiday season single in 4 years. But I bought myself a small tree and decorated it exactly how I wanted. No fighting about ornament placement. No walking on eggshells about dinner plans. Just me and my choices. On New Year's Eve, I sat in my apartment and wrote a list of goals for the coming year. Not resolutions. Goals. Testify at Vernon's trial and see him convicted. Save enough money to rent a better apartment. Reconnect with old friends I'd lost touch with. Take a photography class. Learn to trust again. That last one felt impossible. How do you trust anyone after living with someone who'd planned your murder? How do you let people close when closeness meant vulnerability and vulnerability meant danger? Dr. Brennan said it would take time. Said healing wasn't linear. Some days I'd feel strong and capable. Other days the trauma would swallow me whole. Both were normal. Both were okay. In January, I got a call from the U.S. Attorney's Office. The trial date was set, March 18th. I was scheduled to testify on March 20th. I requested time off from work. My supervisor, a kind woman named Patricia, who knew my situation, approved it immediately. Take all the time you need, she said. We'll cover your shifts. The night before I left for Charleston, Nora called. You ready for this? As ready as I'll ever be. Remember, you're not alone. I'll be there in the courtroom. Agent Reeves will be there. You have people supporting you. Thank you. For everything. For saving my life. You saved your own life. I just gave you the tools. Still, good luck. Make him pay. I drove to Charleston the morning of March 18th and checked into a hotel near the courthouse. Spent the evening reviewing my deposition, making sure I remembered every detail correctly. March 20th arrived too quickly. I dressed carefully in a navy suit my sister had helped me pick out. Professional but not flashy. Conservative but not timid. The kind of outfit that said I was a credible witness, not a victim seeking attention. Agent Reeves met me outside the courtroom. You okay? Nervous. That's normal. Just tell the truth. Answer the questions honestly. Don't embellish, don't minimize, just facts. What if I start crying? Then you cry. The jury needs to see what this did to you. We walked into the courtroom together. It was smaller than I expected. Wood paneling, fluorescent lights, rows of benches, and there at the defense table sat Vernon. He looked different, thinner, older. The orange jumpsuit didn't help, but his eyes were the same, cold, calculating. He stared at me as I walked to the witness stand, and I felt 3 years of conditioning telling me to look away, to shrink, to apologize for existing. I stared back. The bailiff swore me in. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Eleanor Constantine, approached with a gentle smile. Mrs. Donovan, thank you for being here today. I know this is difficult. I nodded. Can you please state your full name for the record? Claire Elizabeth Donovan. And how do you know the defendant, Vernon Donovan? He's my husband, soon-to-be ex-husband. The divorce is pending. How long were you married? 3 years. From June 15th. 3 years ago until I left in October. Can you describe the relationship? I took a deep breath. At first it was wonderful. Vernon was charming, attentive, generous. He made me feel special. But after the wedding, things changed. He became controlling, demanding, angry. Can you give specific examples? He controlled all our finances. I wasn't allowed to have my own bank account. He monitored my phone calls and text messages. He chose what I wore, what I ate, who I could see. If I questioned any of his decisions, he'd punish me. How would he punish you? Sometimes silent treatment for days. Sometimes he'd hide my car keys so I couldn't leave the house. Sometimes he'd withhold money so I couldn't buy groceries. And sometimes he'd get physical. Physical how? Shoves mostly. Once he threw a plate at me. Another time he grabbed my throat during an argument. Nothing that would leave visible bruises. He was careful about that. Did these incidents escalate over time? Yes. The violence got worse and more frequent. By the end, I was terrified of him. Can you tell the jury about the night of October 12th? That was the night of Vernon's work party. He'd been drinking. I asked where he'd been the previous Tuesday because he'd come home at 3 a.m. with no explanation. He got angry, said I was paranoid and controlling. Then he backhanded me across the face in front of 12 people. How did those people react? They called it marriage stuff, made jokes about keeping your woman in line. Nobody asked if I was okay. Nobody called the police. What happened after the party? Everyone left. Vernon went upstairs to sleep it off. I was cleaning up when my phone buzzed. Someone had sent me a photo taken from inside my house. It showed my living room with the timestamp from earlier that evening. The message said, "Pack tonight." Did you know who sent it? Not at first. But then more photos came. Someone had been inside my house, documenting everything. They sent me information about Vernon's plan to sell our house and pocket the money, about him forging my signature on the deed, about his plan to have someone set fire to our house with me inside to collect the insurance money. Objection? The defense attorney jumped up. Hearsay. Your Honor, Ms. Constantine said smoothly. I'm establishing the witness's state of mind and the circumstances that led her to contact federal authorities. Overruled. Continue. Ms. Constantine turned back to me. What did you do with this information? I left. I packed a bag and drove to a safe location. The next morning, I contacted Agent Reeves and provided all the evidence I'd been given. And that evidence led to the defendant's arrest? Yes. Thank you, Mrs. Donovan. No further questions. The defense attorney stood. He was older. Expensive suit. The kind of lawyer Vernon's money could buy. Mrs. Donovan, isn't it true that you and the defendant had marital problems? Yes. And isn't it true that you wanted a divorce but didn't want to lose the lifestyle you'd become accustomed to? No. I wanted out. I didn't care about money. Really? Because you accepted $50,000 from an anonymous source, didn't you? That money was for safety, to escape, or to fund a new life after framing your husband. Objection. Ms. Constantine was on her feet. Sustained. Counsel, rephrase. The defense attorney smiled. Mrs. Donovan, how do you know these alleged photos and documents weren't fabricated? Because they matched emails and files from Vernon's own computer, which you had access to? Yes, because I lived in that house. So you could have created these documents yourself? No, I don't have those skills. But someone helping you might? I didn't fabricate anything. Everything I provided was real. The defense attorney paced. You mentioned that someone was watching you, sending you photos. Doesn't that seem suspicious? Like perhaps someone was manipulating you? They were trying to save my life, or involve you in an elaborate scheme to destroy my client? Your client was planning to murder me, allegedly. No, actually, the FBI has recordings of him discussing it with his business partner. The attorney switched tactics. Mrs. Donovan, in 3 years of marriage, did you ever report your husband's alleged abuse to police? Once. They didn't believe me. Or perhaps there was nothing to believe? My face was bruised. My cheek was swollen. There were witnesses. Witnesses who saw you two arguing, not witnesses to abuse. They saw him hit me. In their statements, they said they saw a marital dispute, because that's what they wanted to call it. The questioning went on for another hour. The defense attorney tried every angle, tried to paint me as a gold digger, a liar, a manipulator. But Ms. Constantine objected to most of it, and the judge sustained her objections. Finally, the defense attorney sat down. No further questions. You may step down, the judge said. I walked out of the courtroom on shaking legs. Agent Reeves was waiting in the hallway. You did great. It didn't feel great. Trust me. The jury saw through his tactics. You were credible and honest. That's all that matters. The trial continued for another week. Felix testified about Vernon hiring him to commit arson. Griffin testified after taking a plea deal, confirming everything about their financial crimes and Vernon's plan. Agent Reeves presented all the evidence. On March 28th, the jury deliberated for 6 hours before reaching a verdict. Guilty on all counts. Vernon showed no emotion as the verdict was read, but I saw his lawyer's shoulders slump, saw Griffin's wife in the gallery start crying. Sentencing was scheduled for May. I drove back to Riverside Terrace and collapsed. The trial was over. Vernon would go to prison. I was finally, truly, free. Nora called that night. Congratulations. Thank you. I couldn't have done this without you. Yes, you could have. You're stronger than you know. What happens now? Now you live? You take all that strength you used to survive and you use it to thrive. What about you? Me? I'll keep doing what I do. There are more women who need help. Will I ever see you again? Maybe. Maybe not. But you'll know I'm out there. Watching. Helping. Making sure men like Vernon face consequences. After we hung up, I realized I didn't even know Nora's last name. Didn't know where she lived or what her life looked like now. She was a ghost. Moving through the shadows, saving women while staying invisible herself. May 15th, sentencing day. I didn't attend. Couldn't bring myself to see Vernon one more time. But Agent Reeves called me afterward. 32 years. Federal prison. No possibility of parole. I sat down on my bed. 32 years. Vernon was 41. He'd be 73 when he got out. An old man who'd lost everything. How do you feel? Agent Reeves asked. I don't know. Relieved. Sad. Angry. All of it. That's normal. Healing isn't linear. Everyone kept saying that, as if knowing it should make the process easier. Griffin got 18 years. Agent Reeves continued. Felix got 8. The judge was very clear that domestic violence and conspiracy to commit murder would not be tolerated in her courtroom. Good. Your divorce should be finalized soon. Vernon's attorney advised him not to contest it. Finally. Take care of yourself, Claire. You've been through hell. Give yourself time to recover. I will. After we hung up, I walked to the window and looked out at the parking lot. Spring had arrived while I wasn't paying attention. Trees were budding, flowers blooming, the world continuing its cycle of death and renewal. I was part of that cycle now. The old version of me had died in that house, in that marriage, in 3 years of systematic destruction, but something new was growing in its place. Something stronger. Something that couldn't be broken by cruel words or violent hands. The divorce finalized in June. I got half of everything Vernon owned before his arrest, which the court hadn't seized for his crimes. It wasn't much. He'd already spent most of his liquid assets on legal fees, but it was enough to put a down payment on a small house. My sister helped me move in. We painted the walls bright colors: yellow in the kitchen, soft blue in the bedroom, green in the living room, colors that made me happy, colors Vernon would have hated. I hung my own art on the walls, set up a photography studio in the spare bedroom, adopted a cat from the shelter, a scrappy orange tabby I named Phoenix, started dating again, though that was terrifying. My therapist said I should take it slow, make sure I was healing before getting involved with anyone new. I went on a few coffee dates, met some nice people, nothing serious. I wasn't ready for serious. On the 1-year anniversary of leaving Vernon, I drove back to my old neighborhood. The house had sold 6 months earlier to a young couple with a baby. They'd repainted it, added flower boxes, made it their own. I sat in my car across the street and tried to feel something: nostalgia, regret, anything, but all I felt was distance. That house belonged to someone else's life, someone else's nightmare. I drove away and didn't look back. Nora called me occasionally, sometimes just to check in, sometimes to ask if I'd be willing to talk to another woman she was helping. I always said yes, shared my story, offered hope that escape was possible, that life existed on the other side of abuse. One of those women, Rebecca, reached out months later to tell me she'd left her husband and was rebuilding. "Your story gave me courage," she said. "Thank you." That became my purpose. Not just surviving, but helping others survive. I started volunteering at a domestic violence shelter, answering phones on the crisis line, sharing my experience in support groups. Dr. Brennan said I was turning my trauma into meaning, finding purpose in the pain. It sounded nice in theory. In practice, it was messy and hard, and sometimes I still woke up from nightmares where Vernon was chasing me through that house, setting fires while I ran. But the nightmares came less frequently. The fear loosened its grip. I started sleeping through the night, started trusting my own judgment, started believing I deserved safety and respect and love. 2 years after leaving Vernon, I met someone. His name was Christopher, and he was gentle in ways I'd forgotten men could be. He asked before touching, listened when I talked, respected my boundaries without making me explain why they existed. Our first argument, I flinched, waited for the yelling, the punishment, the violence. Instead, Christopher took a breath and said, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset you. Can we talk about this calmly?" I burst into tears. Actual functional communication felt like a miracle. We took it slow, very slow. He met my sister, met my therapist, understood why I needed to move at my own pace. Never pushed, never demanded, just showed up consistently and let me learn to trust again. 3 years after leaving Vernon, Christopher proposed. I said yes, but insisted on a long engagement. Marriage still scared me. The institution itself felt tainted, but he understood. We'd get there when we got there. I changed my name back to Hartley, legally erased Vernon from my identity. It felt like shedding dead skin. 4 years after leaving, I testified at a congressional hearing about domestic violence and financial abuse, told my story to lawmakers, advocated for better protections for survivors, pushed for laws that would make it harder for abusers to hide assets and easier for victims to escape. I'd never imagined myself as an activist, but apparently surviving Vernon had given me a voice I hadn't known I possessed. 5 years after leaving, I married Christopher in a small ceremony with just family and close friends. Nora came. It was the first time I'd seen her in person since that night at the rest stop. She looked happy, peaceful, like she'd found her own version of healing. "We're proud of you," she said. "Vanessa would be proud too." I hugged her tight. "Thank you for everything." She smiled. "You did the hard part. You survived. You rebuilt. You thrived. So did you." "Yeah, I guess we both did." At the reception, my sister gave a toast. She talked about how strong I was, how brave, how inspiring, but all I could think was how I hadn't felt strong or brave. I'd felt terrified and desperate and alone. Strength wasn't the absence of fear. It was moving forward despite the fear. It was choosing survival over surrender. It was believing that tomorrow could be better than today, even when today was hell. I'd survived Vernon, survived his violence, his manipulation, his attempt to murder me. And I'd done more than survive. I'd built a new life, found love again, discovered purpose, turned my trauma into advocacy. Vernon was in a federal prison, would be for another 27 years. I was free, truly, completely free. Sometimes at night, I still thought about that moment in my driveway. The moment I chose to drive away instead of going back inside. The moment I chose myself over Vernon's comfort, my safety over his control. That decision saved my life. But more than that, it gave me my life back. I wasn't Vernon's victim anymore. I wasn't defined by what he'd done to me. I was Claire Hartley, survivor, advocate, wife, photographer, cat owner, sister, friend. I was whole. I was healing. I was enough. And if Nora called tomorrow with another woman who needed hope, I'd answer the phone and say what someone once said to me: "Pack tonight. Your life is waiting." Because everyone deserves a chance to escape. Everyone deserves safety. Everyone deserves to rebuild. And sometimes all it takes is one person reaching out in the darkness, offering a hand, showing the way. I'd been given that chance. Now I spent my life giving it to others, paying forward the gift Nora had given me, the gift of survival, the gift of hope, the gift of tomorrow. Vernon had tried to take everything from me, my home, my money, my dignity, my life, but he'd failed. I was still here, still standing, still fighting. and I would keep fighting. For myself, for Vanessa and Sophia, for Rebecca and all the other women Nora had helped, for every person trapped in the same nightmare I'd escaped. Because surviving wasn't enough. We had to thrive. We had to speak. We had to ensure that what happened to us never happened to anyone else. That was my purpose now. My reason for surviving. My way of transforming Vernon's cruelty into something meaningful. He'd wanted to destroy me. Instead, he'd made me stronger than I'd ever imagined possible. And that, more than any prison sentence, was the ultimate revenge. I was free. I was alive. I was enough. And nothing he'd done could ever change that.